Chapter 12. The Watchers in the Trees. No one remembered exactly who had suggested the trip. Maybe it had been Naomi, who'd wanted one last screen-free weekend before starting grad school. Or maybe Chris, who couldn't stand the thought of another August stuck in the city. All that mattered now was that they were here. 5 friends, 2 tents, and 1 fire smoldering between them, far deeper in the woods than they probably should have gone. By the time they'd hiked to the ridge and pitched camp, the sun was already dropping behind the trees. Gold filtered through a dense mesh of pine branches, casting long black silhouettes across the mossy floor. 10 out of 10 vibe, said Naomi, lying on her back with her arms folded behind her head. It smells like pine, wood smoke, and 0 emails. Carter chuckled. Enjoy it while you can. The moment we get back, your inbox is going to detonate. No phones, Emma reminded. We agreed, 1 weekend without notifications. Right, sorry, Carter said, grinning sheepishly. Just saying, it's nice to pretend the world stops when you step into places like this. It really was. The campsite was nestled between a horseshoe of sloping hills with thick, old-growth trees pressing in from every side. It was quiet, not dead quiet like the unsettling forests you hear about in documentaries, but natural. Crickets, distant owl hoots, the occasional rustle of something unseen scurrying through underbrush. They roasted sausages and marshmallows, drank lukewarm beer, and told the kind of dumb stories that only matter when you're out of cell range. The fire crackled contentedly, casting orange light that shimmered off the tree's bark like metal. Around midnight, just as the fire had dimmed into a pulsing ember bed, Emma pointed upward. Okay, not to be dramatic, but is that a cat? They all followed her gaze. In the tree directly behind Carter's tent, maybe 30 feet up, something gleamed between the branches. 2 small points of reflected light, side by side. Everyone went still. Eyes? Said Naomi, sitting upright. Carter leaned forward, squinting. A raccoon, maybe? Not that high up, and the spacing's too wide. Raccoons don't perch like owls. Maybe it is an owl, said Emma. Could be the angle. They didn't blink. They didn't move. Just stared. Shine a light, said Naomi, already rummaging for a flashlight. She pointed the beam upward, scanning the canopy. Nothing but branches, shadows, and leaves. The light swept through the space where the eyes had been, but they were gone. Okay, not creepy at all, said Naomi, slowly. Chris laughed a little too loudly. Animals probably saw the fire and got curious. Still, when they all turned in for the night, no one commented on the fact that every tent door was zipped with a little more urgency than usual. No one slept easily, not with the feeling of being watched pressing against the canvas. Naomi woke first. The sky was still gray, heavy with pre-dawn mist. Her breath fogged the inside of the tent as she unzipped it and stepped out into the cold. The fire had died. No coals, no smoke. It looked as though no one had ever lit it. She rubbed her arms and looked toward the tree line, and froze. There were more eyes now. 3 sets, spaced high, higher than any of the campers could have reached without climbing gear. They didn't glow, they didn't shift, just pairs of dim, reflected light tucked into branches like beads embedded in bark. She backed up and grabbed Chris's tent zipper, yanking it open. Hey, Chris, wake up! He groaned. What time is it? There's something in the trees. That got his attention. A few minutes later, the whole group was up, flashlights in hand. The fog was beginning to lift, but the woods were still gray and cool, thick with dew. There, Naomi whispered, pointing at the eastern tree line. 4 sets of eyes now. No blinking, no sound. Carter stepped forward, lifting his phone camera. No service, he muttered. Don't get close, Emma said. Why not? Because it feels wrong. They stood in silence, staring up at the motionless watchers. Then, movement. Not in the trees. Above. The eyes rose, slowly, steadily, upward, slipping from view as if retreating deeper into the canopy. Not leaping, not flying, simply moving up. Did anyone else see that? Emma asked. Yes, said Naomi, her voice tight. I don't think those were animals. No one disagreed. They spent the afternoon pretending things were normal. Breakfast was quiet, the hike they had planned was shorter than intended, and they stuck close together the entire time. No one talked about the eyes, but everyone kept checking the trees, especially when they weren't sure they were alone. By dusk, they were back at camp, setting up the fire again. No one mentioned the eerie silence, the kind of hush that made you feel like someone had turned down the volume of the world. We're being paranoid, Chris said half-heartedly as he stacked logs. It's probably just a weird reflection. Or owls, big ones. I grew up around owls, Emma said. They don't watch you for hours without moving, and they don't disappear when you blink. Let's not keep the fire going late tonight, Naomi said. Just eat and crash, okay? Agreed, Carter said. They kept the fire small and stayed close, and that's when the voices started. It began as a whisper, barely there, a soft cadence drifting between the trees, too faint to make out words, just tone, rhythm, like someone repeating a story far away. What is that? Jules asked. Emma turned her head. It was coming from above, not in the underbrush, not from the trail. Above, in the trees. The whispering grew louder, still indistinct, but now accompanied by faint creaking wood, as though something large was shifting its weight in the canopy. Then came a distinct phrase drifting down through the branches. You are not welcome. Carter's breath caught. Did anyone hear that? You do not belong. The fire cracked violently. Sparks shot up, and the flames pulsed like someone had exhaled across them. They all stood up, backing away from the pit. The voices were clearer now, dozens of them, speaking from every direction. You will leave. You were warned. And then, for the first time, the eyes blinked. All at once. Dozens, hundreds, blinking, shifting, descending. The first thing they saw drop wasn't a creature. It was a tooth. Long and pale, still glistening with some black resin. It landed in the dirt near the fire and stuck upright, humming faintly. Chris stared at it in silence, then looked up. The eyes in the trees blinked again. You are not part of this place, the voices whispered. You bring fire where there should be cold. Emma's flashlight trembled in her grip. She swept the beam upward, then gasped. Figures were shifting among the branches, not swinging, not climbing, stalking. Their shapes were long-limbed and uneven. Some had too many arms, some had none at all. Their bodies blended with the bark, rough and cracked, as if carved from the forest itself. Every few seconds a pair of eyes would catch the beam, far too high, too wide apart, before disappearing again behind a veil of needles. Get to the tents, Naomi said. Chris didn't move. They're watching us! No shit, Carter snapped. Move! They ran, crashing into each other, stumbling over bags and sleeping mats. Emma's hand fumbled for the zipper as something thumped in the trees above, a low, deliberate sound, like heavy wood falling in slow motion. As they pulled their tent flaps closed, the voices changed. No longer words, memories. Each one heard a whisper meant just for them. You left him behind in the river. You lied to her the day she died. You thought no one saw what you did in the barn. You came here to be forgiven, but this place does not forgive. Jules clapped her hands over her ears and sobbed. Outside, the trees groaned. The air grew warmer. Not from the fire, it had gone out completely, but from something else, something wrong. Naomi sat beside Emma in the tent, heart pounding. This doesn't feel like ghosts, she whispered. Emma nodded. It feels older. The wind died completely. The world fell silent. And then the sound returned, not whispers this time, but chanting, low and dissonant, a dozen different tones repeating the same pattern, overlapping in a sickening harmony. The words weren't English. There wasn't any human language. And then, a crack, wood shattering.
Chris screamed. The girls burst out of their tent. Chris's was gone. Not collapsed, gone. The stakes were still in the ground, the zipper still coiled neatly in the dirt, but the fabric, the poles, and Chris himself had vanished. Chris!
Carter spun, flashlight whipping side to side. Where is he? And then they saw the trail. Not a footpath, not even an animal track, just a wide, flattened swath leading from where the tent had been up the nearest tree. Bent bark, crushed lichen, snapped branches 40 feet high where something had dragged him. Jules vomited. Naomi staggered back, clutching her chest. They took him. They pulled him up. Emma stood frozen, staring up into the canopy. And then she saw one clearly. Just for a moment. The thing was crouched high on a branch that shouldn't have supported its weight. Its skin was bark. Its chest moved like wood in the wind. Its face was not a face at all, just a split in the trunk, lined with rows of tiny, chattering teeth. It stared at her with glowing eyes. Then it sank back into the needles, melting into the forest like smoke. They didn't speak again until dawn. Not out of sleepiness, none of them slept. They huddled in a tight circle around the cold fire pit, backs to each other, flashlights aimed in every direction. The woods never quieted. The whispering, the chanting, the creaking, they all continued long into the night, fading only when the sun began to bleed across the horizon. That's when Carter finally broke. "I'm leaving." Emma didn't lift her head. "There's no trail anymore." He pointed. "There's something that way. I don't care what it is. It's away from here." "You don't leave the circle," Naomi said. "They haven't taken us while we're together." "They took Chris in the tent," Carter snapped. "And we weren't watching," Jules muttered. "I'm not staying here to die." "Then don't," Emma said, standing slowly. "But if you step into that forest, I don't think you're coming back." He looked around at all of them, sick, filthy, afraid, then turned and walked. He made it 20 yards. They could still see him. Then one of the trees beside him bent, not in the wind, but with intent. It tilted sideways like a bow being drawn. Its trunk split open, and a shape fell out. Not a creature, a mirror. It wasn't glass, just light twisted like water, reflecting Carter's face in real time, only this version smiled, tilted its head, beckoned. He stopped, stared, and stepped toward it. The mirror swallowed him, not visually, physically. One moment he was there, the next the light folded inward, and he was gone. No scream, no blood, just trees again. Emma turned back to the others. "We're not leaving the circle." That night, the watchers came closer. Now they could be seen without flashlights. Dozens, hundreds, their bodies blended with bark. Their arms were too long, their joints bent wrong. Some had faces, some had only eyes. They hung from trees like forgotten ornaments, watching with perfect stillness. At some point, the chanting stopped. The forest fell completely silent. The ground vibrated just slightly, and the old one came. It didn't move like the others. It didn't hide in the trees. It stepped from them, tall as the canopy, bark for skin, horns of woven roots crowning its skull. Its mouth was a vertical tear from jaw to sternum, and it spoke, not with sound, but with memory. Each of them saw something. Emma saw her sister's funeral. Jules saw her grandmother whispering in a nursing home, her lips stitched shut by vines. Naomi saw the day she ran from a car crash and never told anyone she'd caused it. "You are intruders," the voice said. "You are decay. You have brought noise to silence." The watchers above joined in. "You burn, you carve, you poison." Emma stood. "I'm sorry." The figure turned its face toward her. No anger, no expression, just a whisper. "You leave your name and go." She didn't understand, but Naomi did. It was a bargain. "I'll do it," she said, stepping forward. "If I give my name, you let them go?" The figure nodded once. Emma grabbed her arm. "Naomi!" But Naomi only smiled. "I'm tired." She turned to the creature. "My name is—" And before she could finish, the creature reached out, fast as a storm, and touched her forehead. Naomi didn't fall. She unwound. Her body unwound into threads of light and ash pulled upward like smoke, vanishing into the canopy with a sound like a page turning. Silence fell. Then the creature turned back into the trees, and the watchers followed, one by one. Morning broke. Jules and Emma sat together, speechless. Naomi was gone. Carter was gone. Chris was gone. But they were alive. The forest felt lighter, brighter, and when they looked at the ground, the trail was back. The trail looked ordinary in the light of dawn. Dry pine needles, faded blazes on trunks, the occasional stone marker, a forest like any other. But Jules didn't trust it. "Do you think it's real?" she asked. Emma didn't answer right away. She stood just past the circle of stones, staring into the trees. The wind had returned. Birds chirped again. The watchers were gone, or at least hidden. "It's what we asked for," she said finally. Jules adjusted her pack. "So we just leave? After everything? Naomi's gone, Chris is gone, Carter." "I know." Emma didn't want to talk about it. They walked in silence. The trail dipped, curved, followed the slope of a ridge they hadn't noticed on the way in. The air grew warmer. The sun climbed. After nearly an hour of hiking, Jules stopped and pointed at a familiar trail marker. "We're looping." Emma saw it too. The tree was unmistakable, a white pine with a blackened scar spiraling up its bark. They'd passed it right after arriving. "We're going in circles." "No, worse." Emma touched the bark. "We're going backward." Jules turned, scanning the trees. They were alone, or so it seemed. Then, high above, a blink. 2 faint points of light. Watching. By midday, the forest had changed again. The trail was gone, the trees denser. Sound dropped out. No birds, no wind. They found Carter's voice first. A low whimper, distorted by distance and echo. It came from the direction of a hollow stump. Not Carter's face, just his voice repeating the same phrase over and over. "I just wanted to go home." Emma bent toward the stump. Inside was darkness, too much for such a small cavity, and deep in that dark, a shape moving, crawling in a loop. They left it behind. An hour later, they found what was left of Chris's tent, folded, neatly, laid across a rock, like a flag draped over a coffin. Inside the folds, a single tooth, long, white, vibrating faintly. Jules flinched and left it untouched. They pushed on. When the sun began to dip again, the trees thinned, and there it was, the trailhead, parking lot gravel, the weathered sign. It was real. Emma nearly collapsed in relief. They ran the last 50 yards, packs bouncing, breath coming hard and ragged. No signs of cars, no people, but it was the same road they'd driven up. Jules let out a laugh that almost became a sob. "We're out! We made it!" Emma didn't speak. Her eyes were locked on the tree line. One of the trees had moved. Not swayed, not fallen. Moved. It had shifted from one side of the path to the other in the blink of an eye, and now it stood there, tall and quiet, bark rough with patterns shaped like faces, watching, always watching. A month passed. No one asked questions. Search parties were dispatched, sure, flyers printed, a few vague interviews, but nothing turned up. And Emma didn't talk about it. Neither did Jules. Not publicly, not to the police, not even to each other. They returned to their lives like survivors of an earthquake. Quiet, shaken, unsure when the aftershock would hit. But things were different. The wind spoke now, sometimes. Emma could hear it whispering her name through vents and leaves. She caught glimpses of eyes in window reflections, high, too high, even in skyscrapers. Jules stopped sleeping through the night. Her dreams were crowded, full of trees that moved and shadows that screamed her memories back at her. And then the moss started growing, inside her apartment. At first it was the windowsill, then the drain, then the walls. She bleached it, burned it, painted over it, but it always came back. It spelled her name once. 3 days later, Jules vanished. Emma heard the news while scrolling half-heartedly through local posts. Woman missing, last seen entering forest preserve. No trace, no call, no note. Just her car parked near a trail that hadn't existed on the map before. Emma didn't cry. She went back to the site. She parked in the same lot. She stepped into the trees alone. No pack, no supplies. Just a purpose. She reached the circle by dusk. The stones were back, perfect, unweathered, waiting. And Naomi stood in the center. Only it wasn't Naomi anymore. Her eyes were sap-colored now. Her hair moved like grass in water. Her feet had become roots digging into the earth. Her voice, when it came, was like bark peeling. "You came back," Emma nodded. "I had to know." Naomi reached out a hand, longer now, fingers ringed with moss. "You do know. You always did." Emma stepped into the circle. The watchers filled the trees again, silent as tombstones. Not angry, just observing, waiting. Emma turned slowly in the circle. The forest felt closer now, not like it was closing in, but like it was acknowledging her. "Why us?" she asked. "Why bring us here? Why take them?" Naomi didn't smile, but her face softened. "We are not a curse. We are not a trap. We are memory. We are the root that remembers all feet, the branch that mourns every knife." She stepped closer. "You were not meant to come, but you stayed, and you listened." Emma swallowed. "What happens now?" The forest answered through Naomi's voice. "You become." The light faded. Emma closed her eyes. She did not scream. She did not run. She took root. They say the forest at Devil's Ridge is deeper than it looks. The trails there twist in ways GPS can't track. Trees lean too far inward. Fires don't last more than a few hours. And at night, if you're quiet and unlucky, you might catch a glimpse of eyes in the canopy, just watching, just waiting. Locals avoid it. Hikers vanish sometimes. Those who do return always say the same thing. We were trespassing. They never go back. But the trees remember. The watchers are always waiting. And somewhere deep inside the forest, a new tree grows. Its bark is smooth. Its leaves shimmer like hair in moonlight. And if you stand close enough, you might hear a voice whispering softly through the wind. "Leave your name and go."
Thank you for listening to this story. Your support means a lot and helps keep these tales coming. If you enjoyed it, please take a moment to subscribe and follow for more dark and immersive stories just like this one. New horrors await. Don't miss what's coming next.